Part 27. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 261. According to what Lu Tao said, there were 50 or 60 people taking part in the makeup physical fitness test this time. This number is actually not that large compared to the total number of people in the school. However, these people who took the makeup exam did not come by themselves. Like Wang Ling, they basically brought a few friends and gathered together. This book The Playground is small, but naturally it is quite lively. In addition, the school is too boring on weekdays, so it is rare for this to happen, so naturally some boring people will come to watch the fun. Wang Ling and the other 5 went relatively early, but there were already about 100 people on the playground. Obviously, the makeup exam hadn't started yet, and they hadn't arrived yet. Of course, the 5 of them were not in a hurry, and simply found a place to sit down, resting and waiting. While waiting, Lu Tao's fat guys finally came to the playground one after another, bringing with them more than 20 friends and began to gather together. Lu Tao obviously also saw Wang Ling and came over happily to say hello. Wang Ling didn't take this physical fitness test seriously, but Lu Tao seemed a little nervous. After all, according to the strict standards, it would be difficult for him to pass. In this regard, Wang Ling had nothing to comfort him. He just patted him on the shoulder and said, "Just perform well when the time comes. Come on." Lu Tao nodded with difficulty, and after a few casual words, he returned to his group of people. Later, other people taking the makeup exams also arrived one after another, and the playground became more and more lively. When the time for the makeup exam approached, as expected, Zhen Long, who had previously said he wanted to watch the excitement, also came to the playground with 5 or 6 losers, laughing and joking. "It's so lively. Hee, yes, it's a good idea to come. You're a bastard who doesn't want to watch when there's a lot of fun. Tisk, tisk, I haven't noticed before. There are so many fat guys in our school. Gather them together and let the fat guys have a meeting. Ha ha ha." After casually finding a seat and sitting down, these people were still laughing as if no one was watching. Their purpose is very clear, just to have fun and watch others laugh. The old god was so arrogant that many people on the playground frowned, but they seemed a little too angry to speak out against them. This bastard, if he hadn't been protected by a local snake brother, I don't know how many times he would have been beaten. He is so arrogant and domineering, so arrogant, I want to beat him. Zhang Shenke is quite comparable to this Zhen Long. If you don't deal with it, you will get a little annoyed after seeing it. But Wang Ling was open-minded, smiled and said comfortingly, "There is no need. Although Zhen Long is arrogant, he is only a little ruffian. He can't cause any big trouble. As long as he doesn't provoke us, there is no need to follow him." He was angry. All right. Zhen Long and the others knew the time very accurately. After they arrived, it wasn't long before it was time for the makeup exam. At this time, the physical education teacher finally walked in with a pamphlet and a stopwatch. After seeing the physical education teacher, the originally bustling playground suddenly became quiet. People like Lu Tao, who had no confidence in passing the test, became even more nervous. But the physical education teacher didn't care at all. He looked bored. After taking his seat, he looked around and laughed, "Is there so many people for a makeup exam? Don't worry, the school said it so harshly just to make it easier when you come back to take the makeup exam, it's actually not that strict. Of course, if it's too much and even I can't stand it, then I'm sorry." After the brief introduction, the physical education teacher stopped talking nonsense and started calling the roll directly. The first thing to start is the standing long jump. In fact, there are very few people who fail to pass this item, but who said that more than 20 people did not come back from the last exam. Whatever is left out must be made up one by one. Fortunately, most of this group of people have pretty good physical fitness. Many of them can jump more than 2 meters, and some of the worse ones can also jump more than 1.8 meters. The distance between girls is slightly different, but the distance is closer to 2 meters, and the distance is less than 1.5 meters. Although many of them failed to reach the passing mark, the physical education teacher did not make it difficult for them and all of them passed. Naturally, there were also 2 tonnage-level fat guys who were really unable to move and were less than half of the passing mark. The physical education teacher didn't give them a good look and gave them a failing grade. It showed up. Some of them failed, haha. If they fail the re-examination, what will they do in the future? Whatever, that's what they should worry about. We can just watch the fun. Zhenglong and his party finally found their fun, and they were sarcastic without concealing it. They heard the people around them look at each other angrily, and the 2 fat guys who failed to pass lowered their heads in shame. They really wanted to find someone. Drill into the cracks in the ground. This Zhenglong was not just targeting Wang Ling, he was looking for fun in a wide range of areas, but Wang Ling was also in this range and was focused on by him. The physical education teacher didn't care about him. After this makeup test, there was the seated forward bend. The test results were about the same as the standing long jump. Basically, he passed, except for one who couldn't sit up even when he was lying down. If he failed to pass, he would naturally be laughed at again. After these 2 items, it was finally time for the most important long-distance running test. Among the 50 or 60 people who took the makeup exam, 47 were required to take part, including 39 boys and 8 girls. They were divided into 6 groups in total, and Wang Ling was in the second group. This group had been arranged by the school earlier, and it didn't take much time at all. The physical education teacher made a brief announcement, and then let the first group take action. Lu Tao was also in the first group. Wang Ling was still cheering him on before the start, but Lu Tao just kept smiling bitterly. To be honest, he has no confidence at all now. The test started soon, and with the sound of a gunshot, the 8 boys taking the makeup test jumped out together. The makeup test of this long-distance running test really showed how big the physical gap between these students was. At the beginning, there were 3 people in front who were far ahead and quickly opened up a distance from the rear, running very easily. These 3 people all had something to do to delay the physical fitness test before. The makeup test was not difficult for them. And behind them, Lu Tao, a tonnage-level fat man, was able to rank 4th. Behind him, although the 4 people were not small in size, they were far smaller than Lu Tao in terms of tonnage. As a result, Lu Tao left them behind. This difference shocked many people. It's true, it's useless if you don't sharpen your weapon quickly in battle, Wang Ling sighed, and then shouted, "Come on, brother Tao, keep running at this speed, you can pass the re-examination." Cut. However, Zhenglong sang the opposite tune in a tit-for-tat manner, passing the test? It's a dream to pass the test at this speed, right? If you go by the standards, this speed is far behind. Before Wang Ling could refute anything, Zhenglong laughed again, "Shut up now, it's your turn later, take care of yourself first, so as not to make people laugh later." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 262. This Zhenglong is really confident. He is sure that Wang Ling will make a fool of himself later, and it seems that he can't wait to watch the show. This bastard, Zhang Sheng clenched his fists and looked very annoyed, as if he was going to fight directly if they disagreed. But Wang Ling quickly stopped him, shook his head and said, "Why are you angry with such a bastard?" Zhang Shenke was not too impulsive. He glared at Zhenglong and then said, "Wang Ling, this bastard is just waiting to see a joke. Run as hard as you can to stop him from laughing." Okay, Wang Ling was a little dumbfounded. After barely comforting Zhang Shenke, Wang Lingke looked at Zheng Long, who still had a playful look on his face, with a chill in his eyes. Originally, Wang Ling didn't pay much attention to this physical fitness test, and just ran around casually, keeping a low profile. However, there is a scoundrel like Zheng Long among them. He keeps waiting to see the joke and spits feces from his mouth. If he doesn't face it, will this scoundrel go to heaven? Although he kept saying that he was not angry, the clay figurine was still angry. If Wang Ling said he didn't care at all, that would be too false. Noticing Wang Ling's gaze, Zheng Long didn't care at all and ordered a loser to go out to buy snacks. However, he himself extended his thumb to Wang Ling, but the finger was pointed downward. After Wang Ling looked at it, he smiled coldly. If a tiger doesn't show off its power, you will treat me like a sick cat. If I come to the door, I will step on you hard no matter what. Come on. Come on. Come on. At this time, the three people at the head also started the last lap of the test, and began to speed up one after another. Amidst the shouts of everyone, they quickly crossed the finish line, and then either bent down and held their knees, or lay directly on the ground, panting frequently. Although their physical fitness is good, running this 1,000 meters quickly is not an easy task for them, and they are very tired now. However, the result was worth it. The physical education teacher stopped the stopwatch and praised, "Well done, passed." Haha, let me tell you, it's very simple. One of them blew, and the other two couldn't help laughing. Of course, with a team of 8 people, these 3 were just appetizers. All the audience's eyes quickly focused on the 5 people at the back. Among these 5 people, Lu Tao, the heavyweight at the front, attracted the most attention. Everyone was looking forward to his final results. Hoo-hoo. These 5 people were far behind in terms of physical fitness. They were almost a full circle behind the 3 people at the front. Lu Tao at the front was also running slower and slower because he used too much force before, and now he was holding his kidneys while running. Panting heavily, his state was almost the same as Wang Ling's before. "Brother Tao, come on, it'll be done soon," Wang Ling seemed to see himself before, and couldn't help but encourage him. It was rare that Zheng Long didn't make any more sarcasm. He turned around and saw that he was eating a bunch of snacks he had bought and holding an ice cream cone in one hand, as if he was watching a show. "Come on, come on, come on." Others also shouted without hesitation. In the past, it was indeed difficult for Lu Tao to persevere when he was as tired as he is now, but the exercises he had done these days had some effect. As a result, he was running forward as hard as he could to eat meat, and finally, he crossed the finish line and fell to the ground. However, others had no time to care about him. Instead, they stared at the PE teacher, waiting for Lu Tao's results. The physical education teacher was not that unkind after all. He looked bored and said, "It's past the passing time, but if you can cross the finish line, you will pass." "Oh my God, thank you, teacher, you are my brother." Lu Tao laughed so heartlessly, but after laughing, he couldn't say a word anymore. He just turned over and continued to lie down, resting on the ground. Wang Ling took the opportunity to step forward, patted his belly and congratulated him. "Tisk, tisk, tisk, I didn't expect it to pass." It's boring. Contrary to the cheers of others, Zheng Long seemed a little unhappy. Everyone ignored him and quickly looked at the 4 fat men behind them. These 4 people had not been able to persist in the exercise before, and now it was time to endure hardships. The run was so strenuous, and they worked so hard that only 3 of them reached the finish line. The physical education teacher was a little embarrassed and passed the test. But in the end, the man refused to stand up even after he fell down. He received a failing picture and was surrounded by voices of disappointment, mixed with the ridicule of some individuals. The first group of tests was finally over, and 7 people were determined to have passed. This result was not bad at all. Soon they arrived at the second group, and Wang Ling stood on the starting line with 7 other people. Zhenglong was finally happy when he saw Wang Ling on the stage. Brothers, it's time for the main event. Guess how embarrassed Wang Ling will be this time. Brother Long, you can't say that. Last time I remember he was as tired as a grandson, but he still crossed the finish line in the end. It can't be worse this time, right? Worse? Isn't it just that the longer you live, the worse it will be for you? Shhh. Zhang Shenke and the others could also hear these words, and they were all a little angry. Even Sun Tongtong couldn't stand it anymore. Why did you catch up with this ruffian as a classmate? Remember me? Brother Ling, come on, don't give him a chance to laugh. Wang Ling smiled and said nothing. The physical education teacher was obviously also deeply impressed by Wang Ling. Last time, your grades were too poor and I had to give you a failing grade. But this time, I don't ask you to do anything, as long as you can pass it faster than last time. How about the finish line, even if you pass? Is this considered special care? Wang Ling was a little dumbfounded, but he did not refuse the PE teacher's kindness. Thank you, teacher. After everyone was ready, the physical education teacher didn't wait any longer. He said ready and then the signal gun fired. Whoosh. Others couldn't react in time, but Wang Ling was like a rabbit, swooping out. The speed was 3 or 4 times faster than the 3 who were leading in the previous round. His whole body was filled with excitement. Like a gust of wind, it quickly blew through the entire playground. Just as the audience reacted, Wang Ling had already run half a lap, but the others had just started. Wow! At this moment, everyone at the scene was not calm. There was an uproar. Everyone seemed to have seen a ghost. What's more, the mouth was so wide that it could fit an egg in. Who is this person? So fierce. This seems to be a long-distance running. Why is he running like a sprint? Moreover, even for sprinting, this speed is too scary. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 263. Whoosh. Now that he has decided not to keep a low profile anymore, Wang Ling can be said to have completely let go of his restraints here. He is as fast as the wind and his body is like a rampaging tank, which shocked all the audience's attention. It's so scary. Who is this? Why is it so fast? Isn't this flying a little low? Is this the speed a human should have? It's simply faster than a national level sprinter. Many viewers gasped. Did Wang Ling take some gunpowder? Or is there a mad dog chasing him? Brother Ling, this is too fast. Did we overdo it before? How did he train in the first place? It's so scary. My dear, I was worried that he wouldn't be able to pass it before, but it seems my worries were in vain. No wonder he said he didn't take the makeup exam seriously. Emotional people really have this confidence. Wang Ling's bad friends and even Sun Tongtong were surprised. They knew that Wang Ling was exercising during this period, but was the effect too terrifying? Not only them, Lu Tao, who was still resting, was also dumbfounded. Yesterday, he thought Wang Ling was not simple, but when he heard that Wang Ling had indeed failed the long-distance running test, he didn't take Wang Ling too seriously. But now, Lu Tao was completely confused. Is this the speed that someone who failed the physical fitness test should have? Last time you said you failed, were you taking a walk or something? Now you come here specifically to attack people? The physical education teacher's eyes, which were not big at first, are now exaggeratedly wide. He has been a physical education teacher for several years and has seen too many students running long distances, many of whom used their full strength from the beginning. But those people, no matter how fast they are are still within the normal range, but now this Wang Ling seems to be a little abnormal. The most depressing ones must be those on the same team as Wang Ling. Like the first team, there are 3 people in this team who were not able to take the physical fitness test before. Among these 3 people, one has average physical fitness, while the other 2 are not ordinary. They are all basketball players in the department. Their physical fitness is better than that of the first team. A team of 3 is much stronger. It stands to reason that those who fail to pass this physical fitness test should be people with extremely poor physical fitness. They are born to be their foils. As soon as the long-distance running begins, all the cheers and shouts on the track should be for them. That's right. But what's going on now? Where did this madman come from? He stole all the limelight. This script is wrong. Of course, the ones whose faces hurt the most were Zhenglong and his group. Originally, they had made up their mind that Wang Ling would make a fool of himself in this make-up exam, and they had already prepared to watch the show, but now, it seems that they are the ones who are acting, right? In contrast, the group of people were all stunned. Many of them were carrying snacks. Except for their eyes and necks, which were following Wang Ling, they were completely motionless. They felt as if they were dumbfounded. Zhenglong was no exception. He stared at Wang Ling blankly for a while. His brain was a little overwhelmed. Ha 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 ha. However, after staying for a short time, Zhenglong forced himself to recover, then laughed wildly as if he were deceiving himself and others, and said sarcastically, "Wang Ling, this idiot, does he know what long-distance running is?" He squeezed him out from the beginning. After all the physical exertion, I dare say that he will be as tired as his grandson in the back, and he will not be able to run at all. If you don't believe it, just wait and see the fun. Yes, yes, this is a long-distance run. If you use all your strength from the beginning, you won't be able to run later. I think Wang Ling is angry. He just wants to make us feel weak. He thinks too highly of himself. It must be like this, it must be like this. A group of people, you and I, said each other, trying to hide the horror in their hearts. However, the reality was very ruthless. As soon as they finished their sarcasm, Wang Ling had already rushed to their vicinity and ran past them without stopping. The positions they were sitting in were quite tricky. They were on the inner ring of the rubber track, which was connected to the football field with artificial grass. It could be said that you could touch the inner ring of the track with your feet. Wang Ling was almost running right in front of their faces. And passed. It didn't matter, because the strong wind he brought up due to his fast running swept over, causing pain to the faces of these people. One of them even trembled with his hands, and the ice cream he was holding fell to his crotch. It can be said that Wang Ling was slapped in the face with real actions, and he couldn't stop once he hit him. After passing Zhenglong's position, his speed did not slow down at all, and he flew forward quickly, crossing them almost in the blink of an eye. 4 people. These 4 people all failed the physical fitness test. They were different in weight and weight, but they were almost the same in physical fitness. They were all far behind the front. Of course, Wang Ling was even further behind. Not long after he started running, he had already fallen behind by a full circle. This gap was so big that all 4 of them were a little desperate. Of course, it wasn't just them. Wang Ling crossed here, and 5 seconds later he passed the person in front again. Less than 10 seconds later, he passed the 2 basketball players again, and kept running up the road without stopping. The 2 basketball players now feel like crying. What kind of luck is this? How did they catch up with such a lunatic on the same team? They haven't even run a lap yet, and this madman has already surpassed them by a full lap. How big of a difference is this? They used to be the protagonists, but now they have completely become foils. The rest of the audience was similar. After a burst of uproar, no one could make any sound now. Even the cheers and shouts had been completely forgotten. Everyone just watched Wang Ling take off mechanically. While flying, Wang Ling once again passed by where Zheng Long and his party were, and another strong wind blew by, making them panic. Looking at Wang Ling's speed, it seems that there is no tendency to slow down at all. Brother Long, what the hell is this? Did he really fail the physical fitness test? Someone finally started to doubt his life. Zheng Long was slapped in the face, and his face was in burning pain. Originally, he just wanted to watch the fun, but now what is this? A strong feeling of reluctance emerged, and Zheng Long's eyes also showed a bit of viciousness. He poked the loser in front of him and tapped the track with his chin. His intention was very obvious. After the bastard understood, he immediately showed a clear smile, and then slowly moved his body forward half a meter, slowly stretched out his right foot, and occupied half of the inner ring of the runway. This is not a tree trunk, but a human leg. It is alive. Even if Wang Ling notices it and wants to step over, he can react on the fly and trip Wang Ling with just a lift of his leg. What consequences will this have on them? This is not something they can consider. As long as it can embarrass Wang Ling, they will do it again. But now everyone in the audience is staring at Wang Ling. Except for his group, no one noticed this little move at all. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 264. Whoosh. The audience didn't see it, and Wang Ling, the person involved, couldn't even notice it. He passed them, still maintaining his original speed, running forward, and quickly completed the second lap. The area of this artificial turf football field is very small. It is more than half smaller than a normal football field. The total length of the rubber track surrounding the playground is naturally not comparable to those of standard tracks. The length of the inner circle is only about 250 meters, and it takes 4 laps to complete the long-distance running test. And now, Wang Ling has completed half of it, and he is running at a speed that far exceeds that of a sprint champion. The most shocking thing is that this guy has been sprinting for so long, but he still shows no signs of fatigue. His speed has not slowed down at all, and there is even a faint tendency to speed up. He has already crossed the threshold for the second time in a few breaths. He passed the 4 people at the rear, and soon passed 1 more, and then passed 2 more in about 15 seconds. Crazy. This guy is crazy. Such words flashed through many people's minds, but for more people, except for horror, their minds were completely blank. Only a few people with relatively strong receptive abilities were able to calm down, and they were vaguely expecting Wang Ling to finish the race at this speed. Although this has nothing to do with them, they will inevitably be a little excited to witness this miraculous speed and endurance. The audience was horrified, but those who were passed on the track were extremely uncomfortable. The faces of the 4 people at the end were so ugly, these people were more infuriating than others. The 2 basketball players were completely out of temper. They could only complain about the injustice of catching up with this madman. There was even one person who was running and looking at the sky speechlessly. That look was a bit funny. But Wang Ling didn't care about these at all. He usually does long-distance running in the morning, basically at this speed. And with Wang Ling's current physical fitness, if he maintains this speed, he can even run for half an hour at a stretch without slowing down. At the moment, this is only 4 laps of 1,000 meters. For him, it is really like eating and drinking. Water is generally simple. After passing the 2 basketball players, Wang Ling continued to run wildly. With his speed, not long after, the 3rd lap was approaching the position of Zheng Long and his group. After training on the battlefield for a long time, Wang Ling now has an almost instinctive sense of danger. Although he was running wildly, he could see the leg that was stuck on the track at a glance, and he suddenly sneered in his heart. Zheng Long's approach is indeed insidious. Wang Ling's current speed is too fast, and his relative dodge ability will naturally decrease accordingly. With this leg, he is really likely to be tripped. And once he was tripped, at Wang Ling's current speed, if he fell and suffered a bloody injury, it would be minor. It was just like driving. The faster the speed, the greater the damage after the accident. If it were someone else who faced this leg while running at full speed, he might actually have achieved enlightenment, but Wang Ling was not in this category. Although he maintained full speed, Wang Ling had already become accustomed to this speed and was able to control it completely. Even when running at full speed, his body was still very flexible. However, facing this kick, Wang Ling never thought of avoiding it. Instead, he ran up to it and stepped away when he got close. If he followed the normal trajectory, his kick would be enough to cross the leg above him, but obviously, Zhenlong's idiot had planned to trip Wang Ling regardless of the consequences, and he even lifted it up at the last moment. Snort. In this moment, Wang Ling snorted coldly in his heart, and suddenly changed the trajectory of his foot. The original step was changed to a half step, and he stepped on this leg directly in the air. How strong is Wang Ling's physical strength now? In a fit of rage, he used all his strength and could shake a tank with one punch. If it landed on a normal person, it would be enough to beat him to death. Although Zhenlong is hateful, Wang Ling has no mortal enmity with him, so there is no need to kill him. However, the force of this temporary stomp is not something that ordinary people can bear. As a result, he stepped on Zhenlong's legs. On the leg, a faint click was heard. This leg, at the very least, would end up with a broken bone. Since you sent the bad guy to stretch out his leg to intercept, then just crush this leg. Wang Ling was also very angry about this insidious approach. Ah! And when the dog's legs were stepped on like this, he screamed like a slaughtered pig on the spot. The sound was so loud that it almost penetrated the entire audience. It instantly woke up the audience who had been shocked by Wang Ling's explosion and subconsciously followed the sound. Just looked over. The dog's leg was indeed trampled hard, and his right leg was almost half disabled. There was no time to take it back for a while, and it was left so clearly on the runway that all the spectators could see it at a glance. No one here is a fool. You can clearly see what happened at a glance. The bitch was trampled badly, but no one in the audience felt sorry for him. Instead, most people were staring at each other angrily, and even shouted. Someone cursed. This bastard, is he stretching his legs to trip someone up? It's fine if he doesn't encourage me when I take a makeup exam. He's still there to watch the fun and make sarcastic comments. He even stretches his legs to trip people up without a bottom line. This kind of bastard really deserves a beating. Looking like that, you couldn't trip someone with your legs, so you got stepped on, right? Hee hee, you deserve it. I've seen them unhappy for a long time. This kick is a good one. Public opinion has spread. In the past, people dared to be angry and dare not speak out against Zhenlong and his party, but now this group has caused public outrage. Although people present dare not take action, it is not a problem to curse them. Not only them, the physical education teacher was also angry. What are you doing? Pull your legs back, otherwise I won't care if you get discounted. The one who was trampled was the bitch, and the trampling was not gentle, but no one felt pity for him now. Under the wolf-like gaze of the physical education teacher, Zhenlong's face instantly darkened. But now that public opinion is collectively putting pressure on him, he can't go too far in front of everyone. He can only make him retract his legs and then lead everyone to move back 1 meter, so that Wang Ling will not be careless. Step on the wrong side. During this process, the loser kept screaming. After all, Wang Ling's foot was really heavy. How could a flower in his greenhouse bear the severe pain? Shut up, Zhenlong was annoyed. He couldn't get angry at anyone else, so he could only vent his anger on this bitch. However, the severe pain was so unbearable that no matter how much he roared, the bitch couldn't stop at all. It seemed that the only way to relieve some of the pain was to keep screaming like this. Having no other choice, Zhenlong simply gritted his teeth, forced himself to ignore him, and looked angrily at Wang Ling, who was still running wildly. Others didn't have time to criticize them too much. All their eyes were focused on Wang Ling. In such a short period of time, Wang Ling had already run at an unimaginable speed for 3 laps. This was already the last lap. It's the sprint stage. Different dimension. Red alert world. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 265. If you are a normal person, if you use all your strength at the beginning of a long-distance running test, you will inevitably become weak later, and your physical strength will be almost exhausted in the second half of the race. But Wang Ling was different here. He had already run at an extraordinary speed for 3/4 of the way, but his speed still showed no tendency to slow down. This made everyone present feel a sense of expectation. Will this person just finish the whole race? If this is the case, then maybe the world record should be rewritten, right? Of course, Zhenlong, who was already notorious on the playground, didn't think so. He originally came here to watch the fun, but now their group has become the fun. The most annoying thing is that the person who made them lively was Wang Ling. Before that, Zhenlong didn't have much grudge against Wang Ling. After all, he had a wide range of fun, and Wang Ling was just one of them. But who made him disgraced by Wang Ling before? That neither salty nor bland attitude made Zhenlong angry just thinking about it. He wished he could see Wang Ling make a fool of himself right away, so he could just ridicule him severely. But now, the person he wanted to target the most unexpectedly exploded at such a speed, making all his little thoughts fail, and even losing the pressure of public opinion to him invisibly, which made him look at Wang. There was even some hatred in Ling's eyes. For Wang Ling, this was an unforeseen disaster, but the reality was so funny that Zhenlong had already begun to hold a grudge against him. This bastard, how could he run so fast? This is impossible, Zhenlong gritted his teeth, full of unwillingness. After being angry for a while, his eyes suddenly lit up. Cheating. He must be cheating, it's cheating. That's right, for sure. If Wang Ling heard this sentence, he might be in a state of dumbfounding. However, Wang Ling really had no intention of paying attention to him now. In this last lap, he had even begun to challenge his speed limit. On the 250-meter track, he almost forced himself to accelerate. Everyone is like a wild horse running wild, the speed is getting faster and faster. Everyone present had no doubt that if someone stood in front of Wang Ling and blocked the way, Wang Ling would be able to knock him away nearly 10 meters at this speed. Of course, this is just a thought. No fool dared to try it. Even Zhenlong and his group had to avoid the inner runway. But even so, when Wang Ling ran past here, they could feel the strong wind brought by it, which was frightening. Finally entering the final sprint stage, Wang Ling continued to maintain this small-scale acceleration and crossed the finish line in a few seconds. Originally, it was difficult to brake at his extreme speed. There were some small grains of sand scattered on the rubber track, making it even harder to stop at this speed. As a result, Wang Ling relied on this inertia and slid on the rubber track for 5 or 6 times. The rice stopped, and the soles of his shoes were damaged. After he stopped, a gust of wind came from behind, and even the nearby physical education teacher had to stretch out his hand to block the subsequent gust of wind. Wang Ling finally completed this 1,000-meter long run. It could be said that he ran extremely fast throughout the entire process, shocking the attention of everyone present. After completing such a feat, Wang Ling just took a deep breath after he stopped and adjusted himself. His face was not red and he was out of breath. He looked like he had just finished a sprint. This scene made all the spectators on the playground stunned. No one spoke for a long time. The scene was so quiet and strange that only Zhenlong's screams, which were almost exhausted, embellished the strange scene. Scene. Pop. Papa papa. Pretty. Ugh. Handsome, handsome, you are awesome. Senior, senior, you are the most handsome. Dot. After the silence passed for a while, the physical education teacher was the first to come back to his senses and clapped his hands repeatedly. With him taking the lead, the others finally started to act wildly, applauding and cheering one after another, and even some schoolgirls became infatuated. This scene was a lively one. Zhang Sheng just stepped forward and punched Wang Ling, smiling and scolding, "You bastard, you have such strong explosive power, we worried about you before for nothing." Wei Bowen also started to have fun, "This speed, tisk tisk, is inhuman. Wang Ling, you don't have a mad dog chasing you, why are you running so fast?" Wang Ling couldn't laugh or cry for a while. This scene was not what he wanted to see. Originally, he wanted to keep a low profile and just pass the test, but who knew that someone had to force him to explode today? At this point, if you keep a low profile, it will become cowardly. When you need to explode, you should be more high profile. After all the applause and cheers lasted for a while, they finally died down. All the audience looked at Wang Ling with strange eyes. Some were astonished and could only be described as amazed, and some were overwhelmed with joy. Infatuation is even mixed with some admiration. And as these voices fell, Zhenglong's screaming screams finally died down. At this time, the physical education teacher should have said something. The worst he could do was announce the results, right? But in fact, there are some who are trying to steal the words, such as Zhenglong, "I don't accept it, I don't accept it." Wang Ling cheated, he cheated. He kicked the iron plate, but he still refused to admit defeat, and caused trouble again afterwards. Everyone present was deeply impressed by Zhenglong. Thinking of the dirty things they did not long ago, many people became angry. Who is this person? Are you jealous? I think it's because I was jealous of others before and tried to trip them up, but this person has already run away and comes out to throw dirty water again. It's so shameful to meet such a person as a classmate. Hey, 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 don't be so loud. I have a brother who is a local coward. Are you afraid of being punished? Dot. Almost everyone started talking, and the overall pressure of public opinion fell on Zhenglong. However, after all, Zhenglong is already somewhat famous in school, and many people are afraid of the local gangster brother behind him and dare not confront him directly. However, some people dare to do it. Zhang Shenke has long disliked Zhenglong. Now that he has found out, he is rude. Why do you have such no bottom line? You came here to see it lively, laugh at someone who fails. Now that Wang Ling is running a little faster, and you didn't get what you wanted, you protested. Are you embarrassed? Everyone must respect your wishes. There is no backdoor like yours. Cheap brother, who are you? Good. Well said. Finally, there was a winner, and others applauded one after another. The incident had already broken out during the makeup exam. Now Wang Ling had no intention of keeping a low profile towards Zhenglong. He stepped forward and asked playfully, "You said I cheated, so I cheated? What evidence is there? What kind of cheating can be done, keep running at full speed like I just did? Do you want to say that I took doping?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 266. Wang Ling's question was a bit tricky. Yes, anyone who suspects Wang Ling of cheating will say nothing, but where is the evidence? Furthermore, it's exactly what Wang Ling said. How should I cheat in order to reach the speed Wang Ling just did and run 1,000 meters without blushing or out of breath? You must know that Wang Ling's average speed just now is not far behind the world sprint record. Focus on sprinting. Taking stimulants. So what kind of stimulant does it have to have this kind of effect? This rhetorical question made Zheng Long's face look uncertain. Although others didn't know how Wang Ling did this, they could certainly understand the reason, and many voices started questioning him. Yeah, you just cheat when you say someone cheats? Who are you? Where's the evidence? You just say it's unfounded, you have to come up with evidence. You cheat for me and let me see. If you are half as fast as someone else, I will be your lackey. Just when these spectators were questioning, the two basketball players and another person who had not participated in the test before also passed the finish line one after another and fell to the ground gasping for air. Until now, these two basketball players have looked away. Comparing one another to death and comparing goods have to throw away. Although their results are excellent, compared with Wang Ling, they seem to be joking. After being hit like this, they really couldn't be proud at all. They could only act as bystanders and observe the development of the situation. As for Zheng Long, after being criticized and questioned so unceremoniously by this group of people, he became furious and said to the physical education teacher unreasonably, "Teacher, Wang Ling couldn't even pass the last test. He was as tired as a grandson. I don't believe that he has been able to reach this point in just over half a year of training. He must have cheated. Teacher, this kind of cheater cannot be allowed to pass. I said you're fat and you're breathless. Can you please give me a little face? Why do teachers have to listen to you? Are you the only one in this school? How shameless." Faced with his request, the audience was unhappy and started to get angry. The protest has already started anyway, so let's just continue the protest to the end. But the physical education teacher seemed not to have heard his words at all, and was still holding a booklet to record the results of the three people just now. Judging from his attitude, it was obvious that he didn't want to pay attention to Zheng Long. Zheng Long has a backdoor, but this school also has a backdoor, and it doesn't hate Zheng Long. However, if you provoke Zheng Long, you will inevitably get into some trouble. This PE teacher is also very excited. I can't control what you do to you. Although he was a bachelor, Wang Ling quite liked this approach. He nodded slightly to the physical education teacher and then looked at Zheng Long coldly, wanting to see what other tricks this guy had. Seeing the attitude of the physical education teacher, Zheng Long was filled with hatred. He couldn't count on this teacher, so he simply turned his attention to Wang Ling again. "Okay. Wang Ling, I really don't know how you cheated, but you look how you were trampled by my brother. One of your legs is broken. Don't you want to give me an explanation? You're so embarrassed to mention this." Wang Ling didn't have time to speak, but Zhang Shenke looked like he was about to fight. "Do you think people are fools? Wang Ling tripped someone up in the makeup exam, and you have to settle the score after being stepped on. What kind of logic do you have? You are only allowed to bully people, but you want people to resist? Is the school run by your family?" "Well said." The audience on the side cheered again, with many sarcastic sounds mixed in. Zheng Long had completely lost his face here today. As a person involved, Wang Ling finally couldn't help laughing after hearing Zheng Long's nonsense here for so long. "You are really interesting. I provoked you before, so why are you targeting me everywhere? To be honest, if you want to, it's not that you really bullied people too much this time, and I didn't want to be so high profile, but since I have accepted the move, I am not afraid of any revenge from you. Stop asking me for an explanation so hypocritically. Don't you just want to beat me up? Do you want to relieve your anger? You just talk and don't practice your rhetoric. Now I give you this opportunity to come and fight with me. If you win, you will say whatever you want." Wang Ling. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Shenke beside him quickly glared at him. Even Wei Bowen and the others came up to persuade him. Why are you so impulsive? You are the one who has the initiative now. If you continue to deal with him like this, there is nothing he can do about you. Wang Ling smiled and shook his head. It's impossible to reason with a person like this. If I don't beat him to death in one breath, he will always come for revenge. I'm annoyed. Good guy, this tone is quite arrogant. The physical education teacher finally raised his head when he heard about the fight between the two, but instead of stopping him, he looked at the two of them with interest, apparently acquiescing. Even he, a teacher, has this attitude, so what else do others have to protest? This fight is impossible without a fight. At this time, the remaining 4 people in the second team finally ran past the physical education teacher, and they all fell down. Speaking of these 4 people, their presence was really poor. The physical education teacher barely noticed them and said past without saying anything more. However, no one else present, including the physical education teacher, noticed that these 4 people actually ran less than a full lap. Happiness came so suddenly. These 4 people had originally planned to take a short rest before risking their lives again, but they just passed it like this in a daze. They didn't care how tired they were, and they all beamed with joy. However, the others don't have much energy to care about the 4 of them now, and all their eyes are focused on Wang Ling and Zheng Long. Wang Ling took the initiative to declare a challenge. Zheng Long was stunned after hearing this, but then he smiled miserably. Are you kidding? Fighting? You? That's right, don't you dare, Wang Ling specifically stimulated him. At this time, Zheng Long was finally happy. Okay, this is what you said, no one dares to be a grandson. After saying that, Zheng Long took off his shirt and threw it to the ground. He tensed his muscles and looked very strong. It's been a long time since I've done anything with anyone. It's just a good time for me to warm up. Warming up? It doesn't count. Wang Ling smiled, and then assumed a military marching posture. He could not help but exude some of the killing momentum of the station. He stood there without being angry or intimidating. Come on, senior, beat him down. Senior, come on. Wang Ling is now the absolute protagonist in this playground. After the battle is in place, many of the schoolgirls around him are cheering and encouraging, and the boys in the same class around him are a little envious. Not far away, when the physical education teacher saw Wang Ling's posture, he narrowed his eyes and had some questions in his mind. This physical education teacher had also served in the army and was very sensitive to Wang Ling's posture and aura. Is this Junti Fist? How can he know Junti Fist? And what's with this killing momentum? How could it appear in a student? Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 267. Most people only see Wang Ling striking a handsome pose with a rainbow of momentum. Apart from being cool, they don't have any other impressions. But the physical education teacher saw it deeply. As for the posture of this military boxing, it is not too strange to him. After all, you can see instructional videos on the internet, and you can practice it by following the gourd and drawing the scoop. But Wang Ling's murderous aura had to scare the physical education teacher. Not everyone can have this kind of momentum. In the 2 years that the physical education teacher has been in the military, he has only experienced it from those veterans. These veterans have all performed special missions and gained these auras after a lot of hard training. But those auras and what Wang Ling was exuding now didn't seem to be on the same level at all. In those 2 years, the physical education teacher had only experienced an aura similar to Wang Ling's from an army general he was lucky enough to see once. However, that general was truly baptized by war, and he would inevitably have some majesty from a superior person. But what's going on here with Wang Ling? How could he, a student, have such momentum? This Wang Ling is not simple. Of course, it was impossible for the physical education teacher to suspect that Wang Ling had also been beaten on the battlefield. After thinking about it, he couldn't think of the reason. In the end, he could only give Wang Ling a more fair evaluation. Of course, no one else thought as far as the physical education teacher. Even Zhen Long, who was opposite Wang Ling, had no idea what kind of monster he was facing. After flexing his muscles, Zhen Long twisted his neck and jumped his feet. The posture looked a bit like boxing, and it seemed that he had indeed practiced it. Don't cry if you're maimed. This is what you asked for. After finishing the last sentence of ridicule, Zhen Long was not polite and moved towards Wang Ling with a hopping bounce. After getting closer, he quickly punched out. No wonder Zhen Long is so arrogant. Not to mention, he does have the capital. This punch is very strong. If it were anyone else, he might be stunned by the punch. But Wang Ling was not in this group. He made a casual move and grabbed Zhen Long's fist. Before Zhen Long could recover, he pulled Zhen Long back, disrupting Zhen Long's balance, and then stretched out his legs to hit Zhen Long. The dragon tripped and fell. Good. Come on, senior. Good fight. The onlookers wished that Zhen Long would be defeated. Many people were shouting and Zhen Long was so angry that he gritted his teeth. According to his idea, against Wang Ling, he only needs one punch to end the fight, but now, the script seems to be reversed. Come again, I was not careful just now. Once he fell to the ground, Zhen Long would not admit defeat. After getting up, he moved towards Wang Ling more carefully. This time, he learned wisely and changed the angle of attack, punching directly, trying to hit Wang Ling's lower abdomen. But Wang Ling temporarily dodged the attack and punched Zhen Long right in the face with his backhand. This punch would be uncomfortable even for a tank, let alone a human being. If it really hit, Zhen Long's head might even be blown open. But when the fist was only 10 centimeters away from Zhen Long's face, it suddenly stopped, but the fierce wind of the fist roared up, causing Zhen Long's face to hurt. Wang Ling withdrew his fist temporarily, but he did not take advantage of Zhen Long. He grabbed his wrist with his backhand and twisted it. Then he bent his left leg and directly hit Zhen Long's back. With a standard grappling posture, Zhen Long was knocked down. On the grass. Good. The people around him cheered again, but the physical education teacher murmured, grappling style. But it's a little different from grappling style. Where did he learn it? Depend on. In the battle circle, Zhen Long was furious when he heard the shouts around him. He wanted to break free, but couldn't move. Just when he was about to curse, Wang Ling took the initiative to let go and stood up. After losing 2 games in a row, Zhen Long's face was in burning pain. But now, Zhen Long didn't care about anything else at all. He just wanted to punish Wang Ling severely. He didn't do anything after he stood up. He was ready to kick Wang Ling. But Wang Ling's speed was beyond his reach. He quickly turned around and came to Zhen Long's side, then reached out and grabbed Zhen Long's belt. Immediately afterwards, everyone was shocked because Wang Ling directly grabbed Zhen Long's belt and lifted Zhen Long up. He stretched his arms at 90 degrees and placed Zhen Long's entire body in the air. Hiss! The onlookers gasped. He was a human being, and judging from his body shape, he weighed more than 160 kilograms. But Wang Ling just lifted him up, as if he was carrying a little chicken. How much power does this have to be? The roommates Zhang Shenke and Wei Bowen also glanced at each other. They were completely confused by the scene and could not say a word. Not to mention them, even Zhen Long was confused. He looked at the artificial turf on the ground while hanging in the air, and then turned his head with difficulty to look at Wang Ling, who had a playful look on his face. His head was buzzing. After a brief trance, Zhen Long finally regained his composure, gritted his teeth, and struggled in the air with an expression of reluctance. But no matter how hard he struggled, Wang Ling never let go, only making him more and more embarrassed. "You humming let go." After struggling to no avail, Zhenlong simply started to curse. But this time, Wang Ling was not so easy to talk to. He sneered and said sarcastically, "I'm still waiting for you to beat me. Why can't you even touch me? With your skills, why are you so arrogant? I'll tell you, there's no grudge, I've shown mercy everywhere, but don't go too far and make me angry. I won't feel so comfortable next time, so get out." After saying that, Wang Ling threw Zhenlong aside as if he was throwing away garbage. Wang Ling really didn't mean to brag with these words. Not to mention Wang Ling's current physique, he is almost a pervert and a monster. The Zhengxing boxing he practices alone is enough for Zhenlong to drink a pot. There is a war going on in the world of Red Alert. This army's boxing style will inevitably change. Many of the moves are killing moves, which are enough to kill people. If it weren't for showing mercy, Zhenlong wouldn't know how miserable he would be now. But Zhenlong had no idea what was going on. He was thrown to the ground and hurriedly used his limbs to support himself. After standing up, he was about to continue taking action, but after seeing Wang Ling's cold gaze, his momentum suddenly weakened. The excitement was not taken into account, and the place was not restored. Zhenlong had completely lost his face in this playground. How could he have the nerve to stay any longer? But before leaving, he did not forget to threaten and invite a fight. "Wang Ling, you have the guts? You are a man. Wait for me at the school gate at 7 o'clock tonight. No matter how many people you call, I must be dead today." You. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 268. It's up to you. Wang Ling put his pockets in his trouser pockets, his back straight, his eyes cold, his expression indifferent, and he didn't take Zhenlong's threat to heart at all. Doesn't Zhenlong's confidence in saying this lie in his cheap brother Zheng Kui? When Wang Ling had just completed the primary strengthening of his body, he beat up the cheap guy. Now he not only completed the intermediate strengthening, but also received the weapons and abilities of the Magnetic Explosion Infantry King and the Psychic Troop. Ruffian, there is really no pressure on Wang Ling. If Zhenlong knew this, there's no telling how depressed he would be. However, they don't know anything about it now. With the support of that local snake brother, it won't be easy to find a place. After glaring at Wang Ling for the last time, Zhenlong snorted coldly. He really had no shame in staying in the playground any longer. He picked up his clothes, shouted angrily at the scoundrels, and then left the playground without looking back, heading straight to walk outside the school. As for those losers, they had no choice but to keep up. The guy whose leg was almost trampled by Wang Ling could only be carried away by others. Overall, he looked like a bandit who had lost his momentum after a defeat. After watching the whole process, the other spectators finally couldn't help but cheer again, and some even yelled, "Go away, what the hell are you?" Of course, they were not Wang Ling and could not offend Zhenlong. These curses were basically made as an afterthought after Zhenlong and his party left. After the group of people could no longer be seen, Zhang Sheng came over, looking a little worried. "You just agree? That bastard has a local gangster brother, the gangster leader. You are powerful alone, but you can beat a group of people. Do you dare to accept it? No, call more people at night, the number of people cannot be less than them. Tell me, what kind of efforts do we need? If it doesn't work, we'll call the police. We can't obviously suffer a loss." Wei Bowen also started to make suggestions. On weekdays, these people in the school are afraid of Zhenlong. Isn't it mainly because of his cheap brother Zheng Kui? Now that Zhenlong has made it clear that he wants to move Zheng Kui out to fight, they still haven't retreated, which makes Wang Ling feel warm in his heart. However, why should he go to such trouble when he can handle things by himself? He patted the two people on the shoulders and said with a smile, "Don't worry, since you dare to take it, I have a way to deal with it. As long as they dare to come, I will just make them cry. The two of them glanced at each other, and they both didn't understand why Wang Ling had such confidence. However, since Wang Ling was not worried at all, they were relieved. Sun Tongtong was a little puzzled. I don't understand. What is Zheng Long thinking? Is he idle? He just made such a fuss because he didn't see the excitement. Dongfang looking, however, didn't take it seriously and spread his hands. What's so strange? Girls in your family rarely fight. I don't know. In fact, many of the reasons why boys fight in school are because of trivial things, and some even it's ridiculous. If the old man takes it seriously, then there will really be nothing like you girls' family. He, Zheng Long, is used to being domineering, and Wang Ling suddenly exploded and openly challenged him to embarrass him. It's normal for him to be angry. Well, I really don't understand your boys' families. The spectators around were still talking and applauding, but the physical education teacher came over with a solemn expression, looked Wang Ling up and down, and asked, "You are so good at Juntaquan, who did you learn it from?" He could clearly remember Wang Ling's performance just now, and it was inevitable that he would be a little curious and confused. However, he could only ask about Juntaquan. As for the aura that Wang Ling should not have, he had no way of asking. Jun Ti Fist? Is it Jun Seeing Fist? Wang Ling blinked, and lightning flashed in his mind. He couldn't expose the matter of the different dimensional system, and he couldn't think of a reason for making it up now. Wang Ling simply answered, "This is teacher, please don't ask about my secret, it's not against the law anyway." The physical education teacher didn't make things difficult for him. He glanced at him and asked, "Do you know what you just did? What's up?" Wang Ling didn't understand what the teacher meant. Could it be to offend Zheng Long? This doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But the physical education teacher did not answer immediately. Instead, he fiddled with the stopwatch. After a while, he found the record according to the watch. He waved it with a very excited expression, 72 seconds. For a 1,000-meter run, you run in 72 seconds finished. Is this the speed a human should have? The world record for the 100-meter dash is nearly 10 seconds, but you are lucky enough to do it, 72 seconds for the 1,000-meter dash. You have already broken the world record. Is this a small thing? Wang Ling was speechless for a moment. His outburst this time was simply because he couldn't stand Zheng Long and deliberately slapped him in the face, but it seemed that he went too far and accidentally broke the world record. No wonder the PE teacher is so excited. This is a world record. There is actually a student in the school who breaks the world sprint and 1,000-meter long-distance running records. If this is to be publicized, the school must follow suit and become famous. However, Wang Ling obviously didn't want to, or dare not, become famous. After reading this meaning from the PE teacher's eyes, he quickly refused. "Teacher, please keep it secret for me. Don't let this score out, otherwise I will there's trouble." Well, this basin of cold water poured on me, and the physical education teacher was a little speechless. He didn't even take advantage of such a good opportunity to become famous. However, the physical education teacher did not refuse. He is not a fool. The world record can be broken easily. What's more, Wang Ling, who couldn't even pass the test more than half a year ago, would never change like this in half a year. In addition, Wang Ling also knew how to use the military body boxing, and his body contained a murderous aura that frightened even him. Thinking about it all, this Wang Ling definitely had some big secret hidden in him. It was precisely because of the secret that Wang Ling's transformation became so obvious. To be honest, the physical education teacher was also very curious as to what the secret was, but in the end, he chose to respect Wang Ling's wishes and did not ask the question. After this big episode, the make-up physical fitness test finally started again, and the 13 members immediately came on stage and started the test. However, with Wang Ling's record first, the rest of the test seemed relatively boring. Without the sarcastic and mocking voices of Zheng Long and his gang, even the cheers from the audience were much weaker. It was nothing more than those people's best friends were just cheering and cheering for them. In this way, the remaining sets of tests were all completed quickly. As expected, most people were given a passing grade. Only some people who could not even reach the finish line and were really poor were given a pass by the physical education teacher. Scored a failing grade. After everyone's results were settled, the make-up physical fitness test was finally over. The overall result was that some were happy and some were sad. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 269. Chapter 269. The script seems to have suddenly changed. The make-up test for this physical fitness test is, in a large sense, just a procedure, and the requirements are not that strict. Just like what the physical education teacher said, the consequences mentioned by the school are so serious, but it is just to force this group of students from across the road to come back and take the make-up exam. As long as the grades are not too bad, they will basically pass. It is precisely because this requirement is too lax that the school does not arrange a second re-examination at all. Those who failed to pass the re-examination are so worried. After all, this is a matter of graduation certificate. It is true that according to the seniors who have graduated from this school, as long as the tuition is paid in full, you will have a graduation certificate. However, given the nature of this school, if the implicit standards in other aspects are not up to standard, in the end there will definitely be some embarrassment. However, in the end, they worried too much, because the physical education teacher they met did not play according to common sense at all. After all the results were announced, the physical education teacher looked around at all the students present and began the final summary. Now, the make-up test for the physical fitness test is over. First of all, congratulations to all the students who passed. Although it was congratulations, not many people applauded on the playground, making the scene somewhat embarrassing. But the physical education teacher didn't care and continued, although many of the students who passed the test were unable to take the exam before, there are also some whose physical fitness is really poor. I have paid attention to a group of these people. I have really worked hard to take the make-up exam, and for no other reason than for this serious attitude, everyone can give me some encouragement and recognition. As he spoke, the physical education teacher took the lead and clapped his hands. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. With the teacher taking the lead, others followed suit, and amidst the applause, Lu Tao and the others were having a lot of fun. After a round of applause on the playground, the physical education teacher suddenly changed the subject. In addition, I want to seriously criticize the students who failed to pass the make-up exam. The make-up exam has lowered the passing standard to the lowest level. You still can't pass. Is there really something wrong with your health? I think there's something wrong with your attitude. Usually you guys are lazy, so forget it, but after getting the news about the make-up exam, you know that you are not in good health, but you still have to go your own way. If you can pass this, it can eat up the seconds of a watch. The students who were criticized lowered their heads in shame. They could not refute the PE teacher's criticism with a single word. However, just when they were discouraged, the physical education teacher said again, "What is the purpose of physical education? The purpose is to let you strengthen physical exercise and strengthen your physique. The exam is just a way of supervision, not to get results. I'm here to deal with things. Don't say that I'm making things difficult for you. You failed to pass the make-up test. The school doesn't have a second make-up test, but I have one here. It's very simple to pass the second make-up test. Just let me see that you are working hard. If your physical fitness can be strengthened, you will be able to pass. You guys will write down my mobile phone number later. As long as you feel that you can reach the passing line, you can call at any time to participate in the second makeup test. No matter where I am, they will all rush back to invigilate the exam as soon as possible. After the words and requests were thrown out loudly, everyone present was stunned. Those students who failed to pass were even more stunned, and their heads were buzzing from the shock. Pa! 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 Bang bang bang. After being stunned, Wang Ling took the lead and slowly clapped his hands, and then the entire playground burst into warm applause. The applause this time was Wang Ling applauding the PE teacher from the bottom of his heart. According to his original understanding, he failed to pass the physical fitness test in the re-examination. Then, in order to issue the graduation certificate smoothly, those people were not allowed to give gifts to the physical education teacher one by one to plead for mercy. Then, after the physical education teacher received enough gifts, he reluctantly passed. However, the script seemed to have suddenly changed, and Wang Ling couldn't help but admire it. It seems that before, he thought too badly of the physical education teacher. After the applause, the few students who failed to pass the exam hurried forward and asked for the physical education teacher's mobile phone number. Unexpectedly, the physical education teacher asked for Wang Ling's mobile phone number alone. After the session was over, there was finally nothing else happening on the playground. As the physical education teacher left, everyone else also dispersed. The makeup physical fitness test was officially over. With the last words of the physical education teacher, the result was considered perfect. However, the turmoil caused by the makeup exam has just begun. It stands to reason that a makeup test can be a big deal, and it will be over when it is over. But this year's makeup exam is different. There is Wang Ling among them, which has stirred up the whole playground. The speed at which Seizi ran shocked all the spectators. Some thoughtful people silently estimated that this speed might be enough to break the world record, and it would be a double record for 100 meters and 1000 meters. All the people watching at the scene will have something to talk about for a period of time in the future. When they talk about this matter with their relatives, friends, and close friends, they are very excited. However, these people were talking about their efforts, but the people listening didn't seem to care much about it. After all, this matter sounded like bragging. Run 1000 meters at a speed that exceeds the world sprint record, and then not blush or be out of breath. Who are you fooling? However, no one expected the scene to happen at the beginning, and no one had time to record the video. Apart from word of mouth from those at the scene, there was no evidence at all. In addition, before Wang Ling left, he deliberately requested that he wanted to live a quiet life and let the group of people keep a lower profile. Naturally, this group of viewers did not lose his face. They just spread the word in the school, and it was said by one party, Fang Fang was happy. In the end, after Wang Ling did such a thing, he only became famous in a small area in the school, and it was not too exaggerated. Besides Wang Ling, the one who was talked about the most this afternoon was naturally Zheng Long. Zheng Long was not only domineering in school, but he was also eccentric, tough, and talkative. There were a group of people who flattered him, but more people couldn't stand him. But this afternoon, Wang Ling openly provoked Zheng Long and beat him up. After the news came out, many people clapped their hands and applauded, but when they heard that Zheng Long planned to ask someone to make a fight, and it seemed that he was going to move out of his brother Zheng Kui, they all started to worry about Wang Ling. If it was just Zheng Long, it would be easy to talk about anything, but when it comes to Zheng Kui, it would not end well. Zheng Kuina is a local snake in this area. Although his scope of influence is not large, he has made his name personally. He even got into trouble for these things. Such a ruthless person is still in the school. Who among these students is not afraid? Different dimension red alert world. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 270. I received the news in the afternoon that chapter 270 has been blocked. It may be that the dirty words of the ruffians at the beginning are a little too real in order not to affect reading. Here is a brief summary of the general content of that chapter. The ruffian army enters the door. Zheng Long. After identifying Wang Ling, Zheng Kui also recognized Wang Ling. He was frightened, but because of the large number of people, he still wanted to ask Wang Ling for an explanation. In the end, Wang Ling did not agree, but instead released his spiritual power to the ruffian army. Pressure. With Wang Ling's current strength, without using any abilities, he could cross the entire army of ruffians with just his fists and kicks, beating them to the point of doubting their lives in minutes. But if they do it in such a big way, the scene will definitely be chaotic, which is not what Wang Ling wants to see. Speaking of large-scale attacks, he now also has electromagnetic and electric attacks. These hundreds of ruffians can't withstand his 2 rounds of bombardment. When the time comes, whether Wang Ling wants to teach them a lesson or want to kill them, it's all just a thought. If there was no one around to watch, Wang Ling really wouldn't mind using this move, but in this situation, it was really inappropriate. After excluding, only the mental force field is suitable for use. This is not the first time this mental force field has been used. The last time it was used, the entire boys' dormitory was frightened. There were even rumors of being haunted. It was so noisy that everyone in the same dormitory with Wang Ling suffered calamity. But this time, it was naturally this group of ruffians who suffered the disaster. Under the mental power field, the expressions of all the ruffians suddenly changed. They seemed to see a battlefield intertwined with blood and fire in their minds. The sky seemed to be dyed blood red. Countless lives were deprived of by the war. There were corpses everywhere. The threat rushed towards them, as if it would take away their lives in the next second. It was so terrifying that it made people tremble. Although this group of ruffians talk about fighting every 3 days, compared with fighting, these are just childish. The terror of death threats on the battlefield makes this group of arrogant ruffians frightened. Everyone has dull eyes and trembles. They were trembling, and some people even turned pale with fear. The most ridiculous thing was that there was even a tall man who was so scared that he cried. Yuri's military class is quite special. After changing the military class and exchanging the military experience book, you can use Yuri's skills in real life. The power of this skill is directly linked to Wang Ling's mental strength. Although Wang Ling had been fighting on the battlefield for so long, he inevitably carried a strong murderous aura. When integrated into the mental field, the mental pressure was naturally even more terrifying. However, this mental pressure is only a simplified version of Yuri's shockwave. It only has a deterrent effect and is far from the power of Yuri's shockwave. But compared to the shockwave, Wang Ling's mental force field is not completely without advantages. Wei Li smiled, and he was very flexible in controlling it. At present, Wang Ling's mental force field was accurately covered by the entire ruffian army. It didn't spread out at all. These ruffians were trembling with fear in the mental force field, but the group of people watching around them didn't feel anything at all. Of course, the reaction of this group of ruffians was too exaggerated after all. People with a discerning eye could certainly see that something was wrong, and they all started whispering to each other, not understanding what was going on. Snort. After 5 or 6 seconds of mental pressure was released, Wang Ling immediately snorted, retracted the skill decisively, and then looked at Zheng Kui with a sneer. "Tell me, what explanation do you want?" After calming down, he immediately heard Wang Ling's voice. Zheng Kui was really frightened. He looked at Wang Ling as if he had seen a ghost. He took 2 steps back and swallowed hard. "Who are you?" "Me? Just a poor student." Wang Ling continued to sneer, without any intention of answering seriously. Of course, Zheng Kui didn't believe even a single punctuation mark in this sentence. Not only him, but also the army of rough Ians, after being tortured like this by Wang Ling, completely lost the ferocious aura they had before. Everyone was so frightened that they behaved like obedient children. Not to mention the horrifying expressions on their faces. Wonderful. Zhenlong was stunned. He was also in the dormitory that night, and he also felt the terrifying feeling that night. The terrifying feeling just now was almost the same as that night. This terrifying sense of oppression, is not haunted, but Wang Ling's handiwork. How on earth did he do it? Hey, don't pretend to be stupid. You haven't answered my question yet. What do you want to say? Tell me. Do you really want me to kneel down and apologize? But at this time, Wang Ling was still continuing. Urging, that tone was cold and sarcastic. The army of rough Ians who were still arrogant were frightened by this mental coercion. How could they dare to force Wang Ling? At that moment, many rough Ians had shocked expressions on their faces, fearing that Wang Ling would settle the score with them. Zheng Kui even had some cold sweat on his temples, and his words were a little submissive. Don't dare, little brother, I just want to vent my anger for my brother. You also know that we are also local snakes. It doesn't make sense that you didn't react even though your own brother was beaten. If it had been someone else, why would we have talked nonsense? We just went right up and started doing it. But I didn't expect that it was you, little brother. There must be something involved in this. Misunderstand. Good guy, you were arrogantly asking for an explanation before, but now you are flattering me and saying it was a misunderstanding? This attitude has changed too quickly, right? What a 180-degree change. All the onlookers were stunned. What on earth was going on? Wang Ling seems to have done nothing. Is this ruffian so soft? That's not all, Wang Ling is now unyielding. He crossed his arms and said playfully, no misunderstanding, no misunderstanding, I was the one who beat Zhenlong. Why, you guys are all here. A fight. Hey, don't. Being suppressed and ravaged by that mental power, the entire army of rough Ians had completely lost their will to fight. They only had panic in their hearts. How could they still dare to fight Wang Ling? Zheng Kui quickly shook his head and mediated, brother, if you have a conflict with Zhenlong, it must be caused by Zhenlong, right? Zhenlong, apologize quickly. Wow. Good guy, those onlookers who were confused before are now all in an uproar. The world is changing so fast that it is really difficult for people to adapt. The army of rough Ians came together, just said a few harsh words, and then began to give in, and even asked the ruffian leader's brother to apologize. Is this brain flooded or kicked by a donkey? But Zhenlong actually did it. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to say a few words, I'm sorry. He had no choice but to apologize. He had been frightened just now. Not to mention that he had no intention of fighting now. Even if he did fight, he might not be able to win. This guy Wang Ling is a monster. Hey, little brother, Zhenlong has been a weirdo to me since he was a child. He is quite unreasonable. Don't take it to heart. Now, this person has also apologized. Look at this matter, can you just expose it directly? Already. I dreamed about being forced into a marriage, with one woman marrying two men. I couldn't bear the result. I shouted at the wedding, I'm not getting married, and quarreled with the woman's family and almost got into a fight. Posted this to Moments, and many of my friends they say that you have thoughts every day and dreams at night, but I also feel that I am being scared. Some friends said that something good is going to happen. Yes, this statement is really accurate. In the afternoon, I received a message that the previous chapter had been blocked. It was really okay, I think. A bunch of rough Ians can't recite the Tao Te Ching together, that's too ridiculous.